Hello guys, this is PantsMice36 and today's video is going to be all about painting and weathering ZIMMERIT. We're going to be looking at this Stug 3 here, and we're going to be basically just, making some nice chipped highlight edges of the ZIMMERIT areas. We're also going to be painting in the larger flaked off chunks, and we're also going to do a pin wash to accentuate the details of the overall ZIMMERIT pattern on the vehicle. So, on the Stug 3 here, this ZIMMERIT is a lighter ochre color, which is kind of the whole point of the video here, because people are asking me what color is it and how should I chip it and stuff like that. Well, if you're doing a King Tiger, I believe that this should be actually hull red because it looks like they were primed over top of the ZIMMERIT as well as before the ZIMMERIT. So if you're doing a King Tiger, don't do this. But if you're doing a Stug like this, or maybe a Panther, I'm pretty sure a Panther, at least an early Panther for sure, the ZIMMERIT should be a light ochre color when you weather and chip it. So in this video, we're just going to basically do a nice base coat of the ZIMMERIT areas. We're going to do a little bit of highlighting with some lighter colors, and then we're going to give it a pin wash. Nice and easy, nice and quick. And it looks really good, so hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's get into it. So the first step is going to be to paint in the actual larger flaked off chunks. Right now the tank has just been base coated with the camouflage color and then given hairspray chipping for the winter camouflage. I'm going to use XF55 Deck Tan by Tamiya to actually paint in these larger chunked off, flaked off areas. And I picked this color because it's just a lighter kind of concrete color. I kind of want something a little more yellow than this, honestly, but when I went in later with some more yellow colors, that kind of fixed it up a little bit. So this was my initial, just kind of like mapping in the actual ZIMMERIT areas. I'm just thinning this with a little bit of Tamiya X28 thinner, which is just basically rubbing alcohol, and I just painted these areas in. If anyone's curious about the ZIMMERIT on this kit, this is an ATAC set of resin ZIMMERIT sheets, so they're like pre-shaped for you. They come in a big sheet and they have like lines around the outside, so you just slice them out and you just stick them on for basically every single panel in the lower areas of the tank, and they fit perfectly except for a couple points around the shock absorbers in the lower hull, but that was very easy to fix. And all these chipped off areas, I just took my hobby knife before I put the sheets on and just cut out the little corners and things like that. So having painted in the larger chunks of ZIMMERIT that are missing, I decided to go in there and add a little bit more yellow color to it. So I'm using a about 50-50 mix of Hataka lacquer, traffic white and traffic yellow. The reason I use these is because I don't have any bright yellow Tamiya paints or anything else. Most of my colors are kind of muted because it's tank camouflage colors, so I'm just using these ones here. I'm mixing them up 50-50, and I got kind of like a hard-boiled egg interior color, sort of. It's what I was going for. It's like a nice light yellow color. Inside the larger missing chunks of ZIMMERIT, I'm applying this color as a very, very thin kind of filter, and I'm also using it to kind of highlight the edges. I'm not doing a complete coat because that's going to be way too bright because this is a bright yellow color, so I'm applying it really, really thin, and I'm just kind of stippling it around and not trying to get complete coverage. I want to get a little bit of a texture going in there. Just add some interest to it, and also this helps to lighten it up a little bit because, as I was saying before, the XF55 is kind of dark and gray. Well, it's not dark, but it's quite gray and muted, so we want to add a little more color to it, and that's what this color's for. On some of the edges of the tank where there's ZIMMERIT and not really missing chunks, but it's areas where I think the crew would walk around lots, I use the same color here, the Hataka mix of light yellow, and I'm using it just to kind of dry brush the edges here and just add hints of chipped edges of the ZIMMERIT. So just a little bit around the front hatches here, which the crew never really used, but whatever. You saw me add a little bit on the upper surface there in the corner of the front plate, and also on these superstructure angles here of the front. The crew kind of walks up and down here, so I'm just kind of working on some certain edges and just picking out some corners of the ZIMMERIT squares and just adding a little bit of a highlight there with this color. Makes it look like there's little tiny fine chips on the edges. So looking at the colors that I've got on the chipped edges here and also the colors in the larger missing chunks of ZIMMERIT, I think I actually nailed this pretty well because I've got that nice light ochre color that the ZIMMERIT should have, but it's not too contrasty from the actual base coat of the tank. Obviously I want some contrast because I want the ZIMMERIT to stand out a little bit, these chipped areas, but I don't want it to be too different from the base coat of the tank, otherwise it's going to stand out and look like it doesn't really belong there. So next step is going to be just to apply a pin wash. This isn't really ZIMMERIT chipping weathering, I'm just basically weathering the entire ZIMMERIT areas. So I'm going to do a brown pin wash here using some of the Wilder medium brown oil paint, and then some of the Wilder thinner here. As you can see, when I pour the thinner, I'm doing this with my brush to help guide the stream, and I can much better control the amount of thinner I'm putting in here. I don't really measure the amount of thinner, I'm just mixing it up by eye. I applied an oil paint in there and I'm just applying some thinner and I'm just testing it, and actually I kind of nailed this on the first try. I'm just testing the consistency here on the corner. In a second you can just see how it flows, and that gives you a good idea of how thin it is and if it's actually going to work well in the model. Given it's actually sticking around the numbers molded into this little medicine cup here, I think the consistency is pretty good. Now the pin wash here isn't really just part of the ZIMMERIT weathering, it's what I do in every single tank, but I'm only just going to show it on the ZIMMERIT areas because that's what we're looking at in the video. So I'm applying it not everywhere actually, I'm applying it in most areas, but since I've already got the whitewash on there, I kind of want the whitewash to remain in some places, and applying the pin wash will kind of make it look a little bit weird. So you'll probably see that I'm applying it in little areas and I immediately start to wipe it around with my brush. There's no thinner on my brush, it's just still wet because it was put on there 10 seconds ago. So I apply little dabs of oil paint, and then I just take my brush right away. I usually wipe it off on paper towel first, and then I just kind of move it around a little bit and blend it out. Right there's a good example of how well the oil pin wash should flow. So this really helps to bring out that molded on, or I guess not really molded on, but the detail of the actual ZIMMERIT here. Really helps the actual individual little wafer square thing stand out. It's really cool. And you can see here I'm just doing that kind of blending out thing with my brush. I apply little spots of it to certain areas where I want to pick out the details. Then here I'm just kind of moving it around and softening the edges because I don't want that stark kind of end of the pin wash. I want it to kind of model out a little bit. Now I know somebody's gonna ask me, you know, did I give it like a gloss coat over like that first? I gave the model a coat of satin varnish before I applied this. I never use gloss because gloss is always way too smooth and I can never get anything to stick to it, so I kind of went with this kind of halfway in between matte and gloss with the satin finish. So that way I find it still flows well, the pin wash, but I can still kind of get it to stick on flat surfaces too if I wanted to. Here you can see I'm also applying the pin wash into the flaked off areas of ZIMMERIT we were working on earlier. Same thing as everywhere else, I'm just applying it in there and letting it pick out the details and create some nice little fake shadow effects. So having applied the pin wash, we're going to do kind of the opposite here and highlight details. The pin wash is meant to make fake shadows because it's really thin paint, so it flows around into all the crevices and makes it look like there's darker regions in there. That makes the tank look bigger than it is. What I'm doing here is kind of the opposite. I'm actually taking some of the white paint I used for the whitewash and I'm repainting it over top of some of the little ZIMMERIT squares and some of the edges. And this kind of makes a highlight, and it also makes the details pop out a little bit better. So if your tank isn't whitewashed like this one is, I would just use a lighter color of the base color of the tank. Like I was saying before, I always do a pin wash in every single tank because it really helps to make all the details pop out. So like rivets and everything like that. But especially on the ZIMMERIT, it really helps that pattern to show up. As you can see, I didn't do it everywhere. There's some regions where there isn't, and there's some regions where there's more of it. And that's just because I want that kind of like overall different, muddy, maybe like the crews are walking up and they've been making a little bit dirty. You just kind of want a little bit of a varied effect and then make the tank look a little more interesting. And with that, the weathering of the ZIMMERIT's complete. As you can see, it was just 3 easy steps. It was just base painting, a little bit of highlighting and chipping, and then it was just a pin wash at the end to help the details pop out. And I think it looks awesome. ZIMMERIT's a super cool feature of German tanks, and it's it provides some really fun weathering opportunities, so I'm going to try to do it more in the future because a lot of tanks did have it and it's pretty cool. So if you learned something new in the video, I hope maybe it inspired you to try some ZIMMERIT, or if you're just curious about how to weather ZIMMERIT, some people were, obviously that's why I did the video, then I hope it's helpful for you. If, like I said before, if you're doing like a King Tiger or probably a late Panther, I would do the same thing, but I would use red colors, like a nice dark primer red color, and then like a lighter primer red color as a highlight, instead of the concrete color and the lighter yellow we used here. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below, and also if you have any ideas for future videos I can do, like this one here was actually requested by somebody. So if you have any ideas, then post them below and I'll do my best to do a feature tutorial on them. As always, a big thanks to our Patreons. We have Ricky from Ryan's Painting, John Butler, Ian Sistrick, Rudolph Kiraz, Samuel Murphy, Richard Ward, Philip Kruger, Oliver Hunt the British Modeler, Jun Yi, Gary Wayne Bradford, Chris Corse, and Johnny Foxtrot, as well as Dr. EO, who supports me also through PayPal. You guys are awesome, and it means a lot to me that you will support me like this. It really helps me out buying things and featuring things in the videos here. and I hope to be able to do more product reviews for you guys in the future with things that I can buy and order online. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.